Welcome to Elevate Utah. I'm Court Brady.
I'm Carlos Souza.
And today we have Cole McWhorter, return guest.
You had me back.
And Dan Packard.
Thank you.
So pumped to have both you guys on here. Today in the podcast, we are going to go through, Cole, a little bit of your history. I know people have already heard it, but it's impressive. We want to go through it again. And then Dan, we're going to go through your story, how you got here, and then talk about how this marriage between Valeria and Cooper Norman came to be. Is that all right?
Sounds great.
We also want to tease the guests. We have a deep dive that we're going to do on buying and selling companies. And you guys have some stuff in the work that you're going to talk through with us. And Carlos and I are just going to pepper you with the hardest questions possible about buying and selling companies, when's the right time, how to maximize value if you're on the sell side, and to get a great deal. It doesn't necessarily mean the best price, but to get a great deal if you're on the buying side. Good if we jump in?
Sounds great.
Sounds great.
Okay. Cole McWhorter, your history is you played baseball at UVU, then you went on to get a master's at Columbia, then you worked at McKinsey, and then you were recruited by Traeger to head up one of their divisions pre-COVID, after passing up the job of a lifetime of being the COO for Aspen Field Services, which he turned down.
By the way, that's open again.
Yeah, we have that role, if you're on the hunt.
Have you lowered the standard?
Yeah. After Traeger, I remember us chatting and saying, hey dude, what's next? He said, well, I have this little dental thing that I want to tease out a little bit, see if something's there. And now you guys, Valeria's up to how many practices do you guys have?
Yeah, we will finish the year with about 25 practices.
Oh my gosh.
Just north of 50 million in top line revenue and about 10 million in kind of collective EBITDA.
Wow. Well, makes the hair on the back of my neck stand up when you say that. It's so stoked, dude.
Yeah.
And when did you start? When did you buy your first practice?
First practice was October of 22. So I was still very much kind of in my Traeger days. And at that point, when I left the firm, and I think y'all know, I was doing a ton of M&A with McKinsey. That was my calling card. And so I left to a McKinsey client, Traeger, helping them stand up a new business unit, and was kind of softly teasing out this growth equity fund idea and running them in parallel. Maybe a little too afraid to totally leap one side or the other. But I think we had a little bit of product market fit then, and that seemed like it was going to proliferate. So at some point it was Brittany actually going, hey, it's one or the other. So October of 22 was number one, and here we are now. That was also where I met this guy. He helped me with my first transaction and has helped with every one since.
Oh my gosh. 50 million in revenue in 3 years. 3 years and 1 month. Hasn't even been the first full month yet.
That's incredible.
It's phenomenal growth. Holy cow. Cole's episode's phenomenal, so go back and listen to the whole thing. We're not going to go as deep into yours. Did I get anything wrong with the intro? Or did I miss it? I know there's a bunch of stuff in between that. Lots of trips, lots of learning. But any major things that I missed between that?
I don't think so. I mean, the only thing would be at some point, Valeria became not just dental specific. We kind of zoomed out. It was more like if you've got a business and you're trying to figure out what to do with it. And so we've invested in dental laboratories, in some healthcare build out with Native American tribes. We've got doctors participating in clinical studies and R&D studies. And so it's diversified a bit since, but that's still the core. He can't get away from Aspen. We're in conversations with some M&A talk on the Aspen side as well. And we aren't in the healthcare space at all. Okay. Love it.
Dan Packard. Oh, also, Cole has 3 beautiful kids, beautiful wife, and baby number 4, his phone is not on Do Not Disturb. Ours is. But baby number 4 might be here any second.
Time.
That's right. If I jet out of here, you know why.
Dan, your history. So you undergrad at BYUI.
Correct.
And then fill us in. Did you do education after that? We want to talk through Cooper Norman, Where were you at when you started with Cooper Norman? You are now, as the CEO, the president, you run Cooper Norman.
Myself and another partner, we kind of co-managing member of that practice together, and yeah, it's been a great experience. I graduated from BYU, Idaho with a degree in accounting. Got into accounting because of my father. He has a strong background in accounting and in fact taught at BYU, Idaho when I was there as well. Went on to get my master's degree from Ohio State. Married a gal born and raised in Rexburg, so the deal was we could go anywhere for school but needed to come back home. So we made our way back home. Been here in Idaho, Southeast Idaho, for nearly 20 years now. Been practicing as a CPA within that space. Cooper Norman was where I landed right after my graduation from Ohio State, and kind of just built up my experiences with the clients that we had there, and found myself gravitating towards the specialties that I now focus on now over that time. And as you've mentioned, taking on a new role right now with another partner as kind of co-managing members of Cooper Norman, as we now try to achieve our 10-year goals and expand now into Utah as well. A lot's going on.
Oh my gosh, I love the story of, we have Walmart right now, they're going through a CEO transition, and the CEO of Sam's Club is stepping in as the CEO of Walmart. They're going to pull someone into Sam's Club. Both of those guys started their careers at Walmart. I think that's so cool to see promotions within of a similar story to you, Carlos, starting beginning Aspen and all the way up to CEO, heading the whole company.
Yeah.
So we want to know, tell us about Cooper Norman. So it was there before you were here.
It was.
Okay.
Cooper Norman, in some form or fashion, has been around for 75 years, and as with many CPA practices, it's had different names, different locations throughout that time. But the iteration, as you see it now, has been intact for over 35 years. We are a firm centrally located in Idaho, headquartered first and foremost in Twin Falls, but built out several locations from there over the last several decades. We are the largest CPA firm, privately held CPA firm within Idaho, which I know is a strange thing to say, the largest in such a small state. But what we
have Boise. You'd expect it to be in Boise, and Rexburg is
sure.
15,000 people when school is not in session.
Sure, and so with your regional firms and things like that, we are the largest amongst those individuals. We have about 160 professionals right now, focusing primarily on 5 key industries. Where we're at right now, where our focus is really driving right now, is improving the client experience, centralizing that experience for the client as well, so that they can better understand what services we can render, understanding what technology is going to do and change to our industry as well, focusing a lot on geographic expansion, understanding that while the industry may continue to change, one of those things we feel won't change is the trust that you need to establish with those clients, and the ways that you do that seem to be tried and true methods. I don't see that changing anytime soon. Cooper Norman is, as I've mentioned, focused in a variety of different services, the key ones being taxation, A&A, which is audit and attestation services, and then CAS services, which is client accounting services as well. But of course, within each of those sections, there are subsections of wealth advisory, estate planning, transition planning, things of that nature that we try to really emphasize, again, as the industry continues to evolve.
So we've heard a lot of discussion we've run in similar crowds. It's funny, Dan, because you and I have connected multiple times.
We have.
We've also had Taylor Harris on the podcast, who he's not a Cooper Norman employee, but he's a Cooper Norman.
Yeah, he's an ongoing contracted advisor with Cooper Norman and has been for several years.
Awesome.
Known Taylor since I was a kid, but yeah, Taylor is one of my closest friends and most trusted advisors.
His podcast, we try to get into the business stuff, but we stay very philosophical in those conversations.
It seems to be the nature of it.
Probably the smartest person who ever had sit on these chairs.
Wicked smart.
Yes.
Try to sit down and prepare a tax return for Taylor. It's nearly impossible.
Because his businesses are so complex, or because he...
No, just because he insists on making things more than what we're discussing.
So our paths crossed a bunch of times, and I got an email, Cole set up this podcast, then we had something else, and within 1 week I was like, oh, we need to get together because, oh, we're going to chat M&A with Cole. We're going to have a podcast, and then this other guy's like, hey, Court, here's the best accountant. You need to connect with him. I'm curious what all of those people said Cooper Norman's going through an evolution. So I'm curious if you could talk us through what was like 5 or 10 years ago Cooper Norman, and what is the vision for future Cooper Norman, and then we'll get into Cooper Norman powered by Valeria or vice versa, however that marriage is structured.
Sure. I think Cooper Norman 5-10 years ago was experiencing a lot of what other CPA firms, regional firms were as well, where we had leadership that was, advancing in age. There was, I think, a very protocoled way to approach how business is conducted as CPA firms. And it worked great. It worked well. I'm not going to say that COVID changed the game, but it sure seems to be about the time I started thinking more about what we were doing and why we were doing it and where we wanted to be and where we wanted to go. It was at that time that labor shifted dramatically, and we started asking ourselves sincere questions about what are we looking for in human capital. For the first time, we saw our clients facing uncertainties that were outside of their industries, pressures that were unique and macro in nature. And for a CPA firm that focuses primarily on business owners, observing that much insecurity and that much uncertainty from business owners was jarring. And it made me ask myself, are we answering the right questions? Are the right questions being asked? And it was an evolution from that point that we said, Cooper Norman needs to be more. We need to do more than what we're doing right now. Services within our industry are becoming more and more commoditized. A tax return can be prepared in a variety of different ways. An audited financial statement can be solved for in a variety of different ways. But what can't be solved for is how a client, I think, problem solves in this ever-evolving and changing environment. Who do they trust? Who do they rely on? Who are the individuals that are going to help them navigate this changing business environment? And I aspire to have Cooper Norman be the firm that's answering those questions and answering them well. So the shift or the change that we've undergone is that we hire differently, we partner differently, and when we're talking to clients, we'll talk about a tax return, we'll talk about an audited financial statement, but I want to talk about your business, and I want to talk about what's keeping you up at night. I want to talk about the things that you're unsettled talking about, and let's work through those. Because I don't see any technological advancement or anything changing the type of trust that's needed to address those things. And I think if Cooper Norman can solve for that, we're going to solve for, ultimately, our longevity and our future as a firm, if that makes sense.
Yeah, so this is the time where we get to start challenging you. Is that okay? So we're talking college dropouts over here versus top tier MBAs over here.
I did 3 years and dropped out.
After 6 years, I dropped out.
What does that say about all the
6 years to get a bachelor's.
You might as something else. My question is, so as you think about strategy, Michael Porter says strategy is doing less, not more. And you said, I'm going through during COVID and thinking, we need to be doing more. So I'm so curious on what is it that your more is hyper focused on or fixated on? Like, did you more for a specific type of person or more services? Can you talk through that?
Sure. I guess the follow-up question to that statement is less of what and more of what, right?
Yeah.
If you're answering that question for Cooper Norman, it's less of the things that are becoming commoditized, less of the things that seem to inspire stickiness or trust with the client, and more of the things that do the opposite, that inspire that type of commitment that we're looking for from clients. So yes, I think in answering the question, we are doing less of the things that we've just grown too accustomed of doing. For me, when I'm answering the question of we need to be doing more, I think what I'm really saying is I'm trying to establish more trust. So that's less pragmatic tasks that you're accomplishing and more understanding who someone is, understanding the myriad of pressures that lead someone to a complex situation, and then trying to solve for those, right? So call it more trust.
As you think through trust as two facets, right? You have capabilities and character. And you guys as a CPA firm, the thing that has preceded you in every single conversation, whether it's from Taylor or Cole or my friend up in Idaho, was the character of Dan Packard. And then it was followed up with, and he is the most capable tax strategist on the planet. There's no one better to work with. I'm curious, as you have a firm of 120, 150, 160 professionals, how is it that you systematically increase character and capabilities, and what are the few capabilities that you guys are focused on?
Sure. I'll answer the capabilities question because that one's pretty straightforward and simple, right? I mean, there's a set of, I guess, constraints or I'd say there's specialties that ultimately every CPA, good business advisor, needs to lean into, and there is a library of resources that we lean on to help us better understand what capabilities we need to exhaust, better understand, increase our compensity within. So I'd say within the capacity standpoint, we solve for that in rather traditional ways. That's not to say that we don't go outside of the box, by way of our competitors. We spend more time on industry specialization than others. The reason why I met Cole is because my specialty went specifically within the realm of dentistry, specifically around the transaction that he was seeking to structure, specifically with the structure, that he is operating within. I checked 3 boxes there when it came to my capacity. And that capacity was, developed by way of training specifically within an industry. So from a capacity standpoint, I'm going to say industry specialization is what we focus on quite a bit with our firm. As it relates to character, though, that's hard, right? And Carlos, you probably know this better than most. You've met with several people. You're prolific in meeting individuals, and I have every expectation that you've done a great job sussing out the quality of character of just about any person that you've met. It's been my experience that that's the same as well too, that I am constantly overwhelmed by the kindness and the generosity of people. It's not something that I do better than others. I think it's just something that I'm blessed to know, is that there are good people around me everywhere. And at the end of the day, I care very little what is said about my capacities as a tax strategist. I care about being known as a friend. I think that's the one thing that matters the most to me.
Well, why is, as you're talking about these changes, you've mentioned the word trust quite a few times, and I heard this the other day. I think, Cord, you mentioned it to me, that sales is the monetization of trust, and that changed how I approach the deals that I'm closing. It's way more, especially in our industry, I feel like it's relationship first, and then you build that rapport, but not with the intention of getting their money at the end of the day. It's a genuine approach that you really care about people, and ultimately, like, that results in a deal being closed. But I want to hear from you, like, why is that so essential? Why is this at the core of these changes that you're going through?
Yeah, I think trust lends a lot of speed to things being done and done right. A great example is, Cole and I, our relationship alone. As we started talking about his compensaties and his abilities, the experience that he brought from Valeria as well too, and how that pairs well with the needs of Cooper Norman clients as well too, and how we can help at a more advanced level help solve for concerns that clients have. The root of all of that was an inherent trust that Cole and I had in one another. I trusted that what he was bringing to the table was genuine. I trusted that he had my best interests in mind as well too. I trusted that I didn't need to overly examine or evaluate each step that we took together, that so long as a baseline trust that we had in one another and our intentions was intact, we could go as fast as we wanted to go. I'm shocked how often Cole and I go so fast with so little foundation on what we're trying, so little foundation laid for what we've been able to accomplish this far and where we hope to go. Anything you'd add to that as it relates to trust, Cole?
I just had a thought about scaling trust and character. getting fortunate, Taylor also attended to get to join the annual planning for Cooper Norman, and how much time was spent on vision and how we have to show up as a firm, the reality that we're going to coach to that, we're going to hire to that, and a ton of time spent on what clients expect. And I think if you have a leader like Dan Packard, who is embodying that kind of client experience, and it is known by the firm, and you have junior members who want to be a Dan Packard or whomever when they grow up and are looking to those client testimonials. I mean, for me, when I interact with anyone within the firm, but I am constantly referring back to my relationship with Dan, and this is a person who I know is very capable. I know also respects my experience and cares and trusts. We have enough trust that we dogfight over deals together. He's walked me off deals that I was incredibly bullish on, and I fought for some, so I could have gotten just a quality of earnings report from Dan. Yes, you should or you shouldn't, and here's what you'd pay. But we make the rounds together. Like, he cares enough to and so I go to sleep every night feeling pretty confident we're not going to make these maniacal mistakes. And then this is the same person who will, send me a book with a handwritten note when he was 3 feet in the Snake River fishing as I was going through a tough personal time, just like, hey dude, I was thinking of you. I don't know exactly how you systematize or scale that type of trust, but I think if it happens by your leadership team and there's a culture that is kind of what moves the needle. Now Cooper Norman and Valeri have a relationship to where we're not going anywhere. Like, we will ride this partnership to the end, and that has allowed us to now also be open to mistakes that both of us would make and have real honest conversations about how to cure those and get right back on track. So I don't know how you scale it, but the leadership team at Cooper Norman's doing a good job because they care deeply and are super intentional about every client.
So before we get into talking through whether we buy or sell and how do we maximize, how do we make those relationships very accretive, word I learned from Cole. You were a client. Valeri was a client of Cooper Norman.
Yeah.
And now you guys are partners.
Yeah.
Walk us through, either one of you, walk us through how you went from first, how did you work with Cooper Norman? How did you pick them for your very first deal? Then to what turned that into, hey, we want to partner up together and have our actions benefit and also potentially put each other at risk.
Do you want me to start?
Either one, I'm great.
Well, I'll introduce how we met because I sought Dan out. That seems fair, and then we can tag team the rest of the story. When I decided to start this, consolidating multiple entities, it's complicated. And as I was asking a million questions like each of us do when we start something new, amidst the set of you have to haves if you want to play this game well, was not just you need to have like a CPA capability that's really tight, but specific recommendations for Dan. So there were a few other firms out there that I knew were very reputable in the multi-site healthcare consolidation, but I kept getting kind of like you, a lot of these arrows back. Met Dan, and then it was like, all right, we're going to do this. And at that point, it wasn't so much Cooper Norman, it was really like Dan and I. That he was my advisor, and I knew he was insanely busy, but he was carving out time to just help me get these first few acquisitions going, and then that introduced us into the firm. And now we had a whole team at Cooper Norman who was, helping us in a bunch of different ways, from partnering or acquiring to regular month-end financial statements to the whole 9 yards. So that's how we met. When do you say the light bulb moment happened?
It was about a year and a half ago, I'd say. We spent time with one another going over, where the business was at right at that point. Valeri had spent a lot of time expanding so fast and so quick that, there was a time where Cole became aware of my intention to come down to Utah to establish a location down here as well. Mostly so that we could continue to help solve for Cole's ever-expanding business. But, to really lean into what we felt was a good opportunity for Cooper Norman to expand and grow in this market as well. There was an email, I still have the email, an email I got from Cole that just said, hey, if you want to do this and you want to do it right, we should talk about what we could do together. And that's how it kicked off. So the conversation was, what experiences do you bring from McKinsey? What experiences do you bring with Valeri? What great advantage does Cooper Norman have in having a client of your caliber that we can workshop how to do things better on a more global platform for other clients as well? That honesty that Cole's talked about that we have with the quality of service and where we can improve and change, molded into this conversation of, wow, we should kind of make this a bit more formal and lean on what advantages that formality will give us.
My team will laugh. A lot of really fantastic opportunities for us started with this, like, hey, I've got a crazy idea. I think that's how that email went. Not knowing how much thought Dan and Blake, his other partner, were putting into the future of Cooper Norman. I wasn't totally aware yet of this, like, we're looking far out. I wasn't aware, though it doesn't surprise me at all, which we should talk about, that Cooper Norman was going through their own, are we a buyer or a seller? Well, you were getting overtures probably weekly, if not monthly.
We were, and it really did inspire, I think, the next conversations and steps we took together.
So as Dan was kind of planning the evolution, not just of Cooper Norman, but where a financial advisor must be to really be dangerous and relevant, Valeri's now starting to get acquisition inquiry, partnership, or financial sponsor inquiry, and I'm kind of like, oh man, how do I think about this? Cooper Norman's doing the same. And I think maybe what really was the major catalyst, at least for me, but you can tell me if it was something else, was then also just the reality of this product that we've been working on, how important it is across the country right now. That there are business owners out there that are facing all kinds of uncertainty, but are really thinking deeply about, what am I going to do with my business? So as I was thinking about that, Dan was thinking about that, and what I've come to the reality of is that it was financial capability, but it was also like real advisory on culture, on talent, on operating model. Like that was the kind of combined capability that if you took to any business owner and said, we're going to check each of these boxes, from things that are as non-quantitative and some would say soft, but so important as cultural implications of where we're going, to the nuts and bolts, the pennies and the dimes, that like, why wouldn't we kind of bring this McKinsey, Valeri meets Cooper Norman and offer this combined capability to hundreds of thousands of sole proprietor business owners out there that are in this, like, what am I going to do?
I love that you touched on that, because that was going to be my next question. So I want to know if you guys can talk about the specifics of the partnership, what it means. Is it Cole's teams that joined Cooper Norman? What does that partnership look like, and what capabilities have you gained, both combined? Now you are a consulting business with M&A capable. I'd love just to know first, obviously, the specifics of the partnership was part of that, and then the capabilities kind of on the culture side, evaluating those things. But kind of if you can just go a little bit deeper on that, what capabilities has Cole's team or Cole himself added to Cooper Norman?
Yeah, so Cooper Norman has employed Cole. We've employed members of his team as well too to aid and assist in this service offering build out that we have. The partnership comes by way of this specific service offering that Cole is referencing, this buy versus sell engagement that we're excited to present to our clients. We find it to be a very provocative topic that clients very quickly will either become angry at or become excited at. Yeah. It's a fascinating reaction we get from it. But to be able to bring Cole, his background, his expertise, his team as well too, into that conversation of, let me bring my personal experiences with Valeri, let me bring my institutional experiences that I had in my previous employment that I had as well too. Let me bring those things to the table and see how we can meld that well with what offerings Cooper Norman's presently giving those clients as well too, whether that be kind of more transactional or compliance-based stuff that we're doing right now for that client. Melding with that the advisory backbone that Cole brings is really where the partnership, I think, really shines. Anything you'd clarify on that, Cole?
No, I mean, well, I can talk about what I hope we add, and Dan hasn't thrown me out yet, so the jury's still out. But if you think about where Valeri's come, and one, I'd been a Cooper Norman client for 3 years now. Like, I know what I want out of a financial advisor, and I want it from Dan. I want it from everybody, in the firm. And so I was bringing a vantage point, but a safe one. Right now, I'm part of the firm, so I'm not critical, but I know. I speak to other business owners every day. So I had that vantage point too. Valeri coming in, and now Dan being a part of that, we're able to come in with full empathy because we were business owners. I know what it's like to be completely, utterly responsible for the outcome of these people, and to wake up in the middle of the night. You know those cold sweat moments when you're the guy, and it's like, whether it's as, holy crap, how are we going to make payroll for this particular unit, or how am I going to fundraise for our next tranche of growth? That's more than what an advisor, having not done it, knows, is the pressure of ownership. And then a little bit of just the McKinsey industry agnostic, right? I know how to problem solve. And I come from a little bit of a cutthroat world, say what you want about kind of the McKinsey culture, where client experience was everything. Like, we would do anything for our clients. When you showed up and flew in and spent Monday to Thursday, you were the team, right? And if you couldn't kind of quote unquote 10x the value while you were there, you were really second guessing why you existed, kind of. That was at least the culture. So I wanted to bring that to Dan. And what I knew Dan and the team could bring is so much of these products. It is the financial preparation. If you want to grow your business forever, or you want to liquidate at some point, and you want that to be optimal, you will not get there if you've not financially prepared. And that's a skill set, right, that I don't have, but I lean on them. And we just thought, well, geez, if it's everything, now you could empathize with a sole proprietor. You have this financial backbone and decades of experience, and you kind of bring all that together. Geez, we might just be able to offer something that sets people up well.
That's a perfect bill. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, I mean, candidly, we're still, I think, safe to say, figuring out how it all works, how it jives, our ways of working, where people fit, how we talk about it, and how we deliver it. I think there's still some smoothing, but I really believe in the value prop, the combined value prop, big time.
I do too.
Guys, we've mentioned multiple times this product. And are you a buyer or a seller? I want to know, what is the product? And let's get deep into, why do you keep bringing up buying and selling? Like, what does that mean to the people that are listening?
So Cole mentioned, he was undergoing, overtures from strategic buyers, from private equity on an ongoing basis. I mean, gosh, even now, it's ongoing. Cooper Norman was experiencing the same as well, where, our firm was constantly being approached by strategic buyers looking to amalgamate or consolidate us with larger upstream groups, restructuring the business as well, too.
Can I say something, just so the listeners know? Accounting firms, very similar to healthcare, right, is a perfect industry or a sector for consolidation, right, as you span the country. So what I don't want to make light on is Dan's getting overtures. These aren't offers you wouldn't turn your head to. These would be the kinds of things, the kinds of deals where you'd go, holy, like, should we be considering this? Right, and that's what business owners do, is if it's big enough and if it's grand enough, it might either reinforce your plan or make you think completely differently. So sorry,
no,
I just want to make sure everyone knew, like, this wasn't
context.
just like, oh yeah, we get like an offer here or there. It was in the midst of healthcare consolidation, accounting firms, insurance brokerages. There are other industries where it is so hot, it's all around you. And there's a ton of gravity to really consider it if you're one of those such players. Sorry.
No, absolutely. And the weight of that consideration weighed on me. for the first time thought to myself, gosh, I wish I had a CPA I could talk to about whether or not we should sell. It's fascinating when you're confronted with those same challenges or questions that your clients face as well too, and you have to answer those very personal questions for yourself. So we underwent that process, asking these hard questions, asking ourselves, well, gosh, should we do this? Knowing full well that if we didn't, a peer firm would do it in our place. That it wasn't going to be a one and done. That this deal was going to happen. Now, whether it happened with us was really our prerogative, and the weight of that caused me to consider, well, gosh, if I'm not selling my business, and we concluded that we weren't going to sell, then what am I? Obviously the landscape has changed. If that deal's going to get done, irrespective of whether or not we transact with it, the deal's going to get done. The capital market that I operate in is going to change. The competition is going to change because that deal got done. So if I'm not behaving as a seller, I sure better act like I'm a buyer then.
So is that the thesis? There is no middle ground. Every company, every business owner either needs to put on his buy cap or her sell cap.
I'm going to say that's the thesis. There's elaborate analogies we've used saying, business owners have walked historically the Appalachian Trail, and it's been this up and down, but there's been tectonic shifts that have made every one of these peaks we stand on sharp, really sharp. So you're either scaling the mountain or you're descending. And behave as if you are, prepare as if you are, because as this market continues to change, Cole and I remain pretty committed to the concept that it won't be competition that sinks your business, it'll be indecision.
Yeah.
And failure to acknowledge who you are, to acknowledge that your behavior really does testify to really what track you're on. The reason why I said it was such an inciting conversation for people to say, hey, are you a buyer or a seller? Is you can imagine that every person says, I'm not a quitter. And it's like, well, that's not what I asked, nor what I said. This process of evaluating whether or not you're a seller in your business, too often for business owners feels personal. It feels like an indictment on how they run their business, that they've given up, that they're done. When really it's like, no, we've learned that in this modern arena where business owners get to operate, there are several lives a business owner gets to live. And it may be that life, with this specific venture is coming to an end. So conclude it well. Conclude it in a way that you'd be proud of. As opposed to just saying, I ran this thing until I ran out of energy and when I was exhausted and was begging someone to take it off my hands. I think that the more business owners appreciate that whether you're a buyer or seller has less to do with your mood and more to do with like diagnosable things within your business and your behavior, the more I think inclined they'll be to accept this messaging and more inclined to prepare appropriately.
Yeah. And how things are defined. When we say you're a buyer or a seller, the spoiler, and we've seen the reactions, you can't be both, doesn't actually mean that if you're a buyer or even a seller, that you wouldn't use programmatic acquisition as a growth lever, which I think y'all know I'm totally bullish on. I want to share all my McKinsey research on how programmatic acquirers outperform their peers.
But you're the freaking poster child for, dude. 3 years, 50 million, and 10 million in EBITDA.
Yes.
But the real provocation that sometimes is missed is it 2 years, is it 5 years if you're a buyer, is it never? It's just like you, for the sake of your team and everyone responsible, need to behave with some real clarity. Like you've got people counting on you to not run out of gas. Like you can't run out of gas. You can't just run until there's nothing left. One of the biggest markers of that would be there is such a thing as waiting too long to start having this honest conversation. And guess what? Most often, pattern recognition would say if you waited that long, your business is severely dropped in value. And then the flip side is you have a business owner, and we all get stuck in this. You chase every shiny spoon, and you just kind of float around in uncertainty, which is impossible for you to give marching orders, right, to your team. So it's provocative for sure, but I think when people really understand what we mean, and that it's like a freedom within the framework, it's just like we need to we need to have you start behaving like one or the other.
I love that because, Cole, you joined a meeting with my team not too long ago, about a month and a half, and that was the exact conversation that went down. Because Cole, we were talking about, a capital event here and there, and then Cole mentioned that you need to decide you guys are a buyer or a seller, and our controller, his immediate response was, we're a buyer because we're buying a company next year. And then Cole's like, no, if you can buy a company if you're a seller, but if you want to determine that you are a seller, the type of company you will buy changes, right? Because then you're not buying a pre-revenue idea. You're buying something that's generating something you can turn into. So I'd love if you could just expand on those two things,
Yeah.
Cole. What are the behaviors of a seller and what are the behaviors of a buyer?
Yeah. You've got the bug. You could teach a master class on this now. If you were a buyer, like Dan committed that Cooper Norman would be, right? You would be first looking long pole, long tent. You'd be looking deep into the future. Where are we going to be 5 years from now, 10 years from now, 15 years from now? And you are harvesting value, right? You're making decisions daily that wouldn't be immediate value creation, but it'd also be long term. You'd invest in people way differently than you would if you were offloading. You could go of all the things that you would invest in, from capital expenditures to people to the types of bolt-on acquisitions. That criteria would be very long pole oriented. Versus, let's say that you're a company and you're thinking like, you know what, we are a seller. Seller defined as maybe we're not just 100% selling and walking away. Maybe we're partnering. Maybe we're engaging in some affiliation that would infuse growth capital, like whatever that looks like. But that's going to be 2 years from now. And that would be 2 years. We need to get to it then to start optimizing what the business looks like for that buyer who's going to start looking at it now or in a year from now. So I think you nailed it. Just it sharpens that focal point of how you would assess everything about your business.
And when you choose to be a seller, it can be, I think a lot of people might tie that to, a short time frame, right? Like 2-5 years. Even if your ultimate goal is to sell 30 years from now, it means, what does that mean? Does it mean that you have to start behaving like a seller right away when the time frames expand a little bit?
I don't know what you'd say about how far that...
Yeah, I think ultimately we're all going to find ourselves to be sellers someday, whether that be in our businesses or in life in general. Like no one gets out of this alive, right? So we're all sellers to some extent. I would say that the time frame that Cole and I are really focusing on with business owners is that 2 to 5 year time frame. Yeah. I think that that's probably the most impactful. Maybe just to bolt on a little bit to the characteristics of these two. For the next 2 to 5 years, I want to be able to say to the business owner, are we more innovation-based? Are we more invigilation-based? Innovation-based being our buyer mindset. What are we doing right now? Service offerings, product offerings, strategic acquisitions, organic growth. What are we doing to lend a lot of accountability around each one of those concepts, as opposed to invigilation-based, namely, what's the quality of our bookkeeping? What's the quality of our financial accounting that we have right now? Users of the financial statements, do they understand them without an abundance of explanation from the business owner? And speaking of the business owner, how much of the business operations rely on his or her ongoing engagement and involvement? How do we need to change the structure of the business such that an absentee model is accomplished? So innovation, invigilation, I think is the mindset we're trying to key in on for the next 2 to 5 years of the business owner.
An interesting statistic. 1 out of 3 business owners selling will be disappointed at the terms they get back. Only 10%, or let's see, 20% will go through a transition, and all parties involved by the end of that will be looking at each other saying, this check the box on the strategic aspiration that this coming together was dreamed up to be. Not necessarily utter failure. So those kind of market statistics told us that this 2 to 5 year range, if you're back solving, it's a mistake to think that you walk into game day with no practice and think that you're going to go 4 for 4 and absolutely you will be met with an unpleasant surprise that the business has not been being prepared, and that is from your leadership team, depending on what the founder wants. You want to step away from the business, there's a whole set of coaching and advising and operating model and org structure that we want to do with you to get to a point where when you transact, you're not critical for the terms that the buyer is going to offer, because if you're removed, the Coliseum crumbles and everything falls apart. So, but that doesn't happen just a month or two before game day. That happens years ahead of time of just slowly preparing the vessel for what we've defined as optimal aspiration for everybody.
So within the concept of buying and selling, I know lots of people that help companies sell their businesses because there's lots of money to be made when a business is being sold. I know nobody that helps people buy businesses because it seems like there's not as much money to be made in those transactions. You guys, your product is, you're buying, you're selling. Is it called Cooper Norman Valeri? Give us the name. What is your joint venture called?
This is a Cooper Norman product. Like Valeri is very much involved, but this is a, wouldn't you say, like this is going to be a Cooper Norman wide offering skill set. And I think part of that is because if you look at their trusted client base, there are hundreds and hundreds of people who've trusted Cooper Norman over the decades. And a bunch of those, I would say, probably coming into the years where you're not a boomer, but close to. And the 50 and over sole proprietor owners make up half of those businesses that are considering a sell. So yeah, I think this is a Cooper Norman product, but Valeri feels honored that we are rounding out and kind of infusing that capability from our side. Is that fair to say?
Well said.
So it's both buy side, sell side. Is it the same play? It sounds like two different playbooks. There's a lot of overlap. Let's get a team, a very different focus. But like, what is the product? And you guys perform on both sides. We're going to help you buy companies, or we're going to help you sell companies. Walk us through the setup.
Sure. I'd say the sales side component of it, like you said, there's a lot of advisors in this space right now that are providing this service, and doing so, I'd say primarily as a broker to some extent. I've engaged with enough individuals on that broker end, and for fear of a broker watching this, I won't say much more than that.
But I don't want to mitigate it. Like, it's like, hey, you're selling your house, I can help you sell it.
Yeah.
I know I have the market
Sure.
knowledge, and then can connect you with the buyers and sellers, which sounds very different than 2 to 5 years before the transaction takes place. We're going to help you do this, 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 and this.
Yeah, I want to be clear. I think the conversation, or that inciting conversation that we have with a client, is not the same one a broker would have. Let me help you sell your business. It's more saying, who are you? And let's be sure that what energy you do have is being exhausted towards something that's going to be efficient. And that's what we're trying to solve for right now. Let's say at the end of 2 to 5 years, Cole and I finish an engagement and the client doesn't sell. As far as I'm concerned, I'm indifferent, quite honestly, whether or not the business sells. That's not what we were solving for. What we're solving for is helping the business owner, I think, behave appropriately in this new business environment. That's been, that tectonic shift I was talking about. Things have changed, and I believe business owners need to be thinking differently. Now, whether or not the buy or the sell happens, I think is ancillary to, are you behaving in an efficient and appropriate way right now? So, in my mind, Cord, I don't see much of a distinction, at least from a financial aspiration standpoint, for Cooper Norman or for Valeri on whether or not they're buy side or sell side. What we're solving for is, let us infuse what resources, what insights that we have into your business where we can. Let's lend accountability along the way. Let's become a trusted individual as you're kind of stepping into this uncertainty.
Mm-hmm. It does sound like your guys' role is to help the owner or the founder of the business solve that strategy and execute it with intention. And whether it's to buy, to sell, you have the tools on either side to help that. But you're solving first for the strategy and executing the strategy with intention. And whatever the tools are that they need, you got it.
Correct.
Yeah, you got it. So both of those studies would kick off the same, which, by the way, was very similar to a McKinsey engagement, right? It was blue sky at first, and that was just we don't say a whole lot. We shut up and just listen to the founder or the C-suite team just talk about what optimal is, like this keyword, right? Like optimal means if we're standing there, and let's say it's 2 to 5 years, and we are either now staring down the barrel of another 10 years of fruitful business because we're not selling, and we see this road to prosperity, or optimal is we're standing at that deal table and it's about to happen, and everyone, words aside, like we're feeling strong feelings of pride, and we didn't, potential unrealized is unacceptable, right? Like let's get into that conversation and have the founders actually talk about what that must feel like and what it'd be like. And then, this isn't like any rocket science at that point. We're back solving from there then. And we're going to take you from strategy, put that into an executable plan. Along the way, there will be these big initiatives that may pop up, as well as services, mind you, that you may want to opt into, but we don't really care. It's like whatever you feel like you need. And that may mean sometimes we're hot and heavy, and then things kind of pace until it's time for us to re-engage. But like you, founder, C-suite, if this is where we're going, here's what we think the roadmap is, and you enlist us with each of these, but we don't care. We don't care what you do in 2 years, as long as those kind of feelings are coming from you.
I love that. And you both have touched a little bit on the profile that you're engaging with, right? Founders, C-suite, business owners. If we go a little bit deeper on that customer profile, can you describe what that customer profile is? And what are the questions or signs or that they're currently experiencing to know that it's time to, start engaging with you guys?
Mm-hmm.
I think the profile of that client is the one that wasn't anticipating having this conversation. In my opinion, that's the ideal one, right? I had an experience a few weeks ago where I gave a buy versus sell presentation to a group of business owners in Southeast Idaho, and I mentioned earlier, the anger at times, or even just the outrage that conversations like this seem to incite. I finished that meeting, room full of upset individuals, went back to my business partner and said, I bet you we get some phone calls. Yeah. Because I think it's the individual that is holding on to that type of emotion that knows they need to have this conversation. I hope someone that's listening to this podcast says, that was the dumbest podcast I ever watched. Like, I hope that happens. And then a moment of self-reflection is, why did I have that emotional reaction to that statement? So it's because perhaps this is ultimately the conversation that does need to be had, the thing that does need to be probed. So yes, there's always going to be the engagements that are, and I'm going to say the first dozen that we've encountered have been individuals that have some intentionality on where they're heading. They do say, I'm going to be transitioning in 3 to 5 years. I've identified even a potential buyer. And so those ones are a bit easier. It's those ones where I wasn't anticipating having this conversation. Why do I feel the way I feel right now? That are the ones I'm most excited about.
Yeah, maybe the only requirement for me would be someone that is being that intentional, that takes it that seriously, and is maybe humble enough but excited enough to be coachable. Imagine sitting down with an excellent coach. Like if I sat down with you, Court, which I've done, he's never charged me, but you'd gladly write to someone that you could be incredibly vulnerable with, pay all sorts of sums of money to sit down and go, like, I don't care if I'm wrong, I don't care if I'm right, I just know, like, I care so much about what happens that I want to get it right. And so I'm approaching this with somewhat of an open mind. There's a lot of people counting on me to make judicious and thoughtful decisions. Not to mention all the other pressures. Life's happened. My spouse regularly will be asking me what the plan is. My C-suite's asking me what the plan is. I see macro shifts coming that either freak me out or get me excited. And not to mention, one of the other criteria would be, if you're in an industry that's consolidating, where there's buy-sell activity, I don't care who you are, but you can't help but not think about it. If you're a dentist in today's market, where you have friends and other dentists that are either have gone through it and it's either been a good experience or not, or there's so much activity, like it's impossible not to go like, freak, should I be like, should I like just at least like sit in this a little bit? So I think that's like the real offering is like, look, if you have any of those kinds of thoughts and you're willing to like meet us at the well, even if it's only one conversation, at the end of that, you're like, oh, look, I'm set and I'm off to the races. Like, we don't care, but that's who we're looking for.
Sounds like the symptoms are the team or your spouse and your team are asking you where we're going, and there's not a ton of clarity. There's some stuff happening in the market that either gets you too excited or too afraid. Maybe there's some offers knocking on your door and you don't know what to do. Maybe these are some of the symptoms that I'm hearing you say, that in my place, if I'm going through those and having those symptoms, all right, I should probably reach out to Dan and Cole and get this sorted out. Am I understanding you correctly?
Absolutely. That's the call we take every day and twice on Sunday, that phone call.
As I'm having this this pyramid go through my mind. It's not Maslow's hierarchy of needs, but I don't know what the hierarchy it is. But it feels like this. Like there's at the bottom, everyone that is in pain, all that they can think of is how do I get out of pain?
Yeah.
And there's some part of this conversation like I'm in pain. I'm having continuous conversations either with a spouse or employee, as you're saying, and how do I get out of this? And you guys would be the solve for that. Then you have the people that are in lack of pain preservation above no pain. And all I want is to not get back to pain. Like, how do I stay here as long as possible? Those people I feel like are going to be tricky clients. On top of that, there's I'm no longer in pain, I'm at stasis, but there's more. I can do more, I can be more. We as a company can be more. It's like those are potential clients. Do you feel yourselves being on like, hey, we want to be on this abundance triangle, or we want to be on this pain solution triangle?
Would you like me to go first, or?
You should go. That's another framework you should freaking IP.
Yes.
The time to value is one, and now you've got the new pyramid. Yeah, go for it. I've got a thought, but I'd love to know what you think.
Yeah, no, I like how you framed that, Court. I hadn't thought about it that way. I would say, though, that, as Cole has mentioned, there are those individuals that face that ongoing pain. No question, a buy versus sell engagement flips this pyramid on its head, right? I mean, it's just saying, hey, we want to introduce a stress, a pain, a discomfort in your business that, in our opinion, you're going to tolerate whether willingly or unwillingly, right? So how about we do it on our terms? How about we do it in a way that is a bit more systematic, not so subject to chaos? Gosh, if every bit of pain I've gone through in my life, I could have been systematic about it and done it on my own terms, I would have done that, right? So in my opinion, I think that the only way through this is, the only way out of it is through it, right? And we are going to, I think, ask business owners to face a lot of discomfort in going through it and do so voluntarily. But I do believe that if they do it now, they'll be better positioned on the back end.
Dude, I freaking love that. So regardless if you're in preservation and you go down to pain or you go up towards abundance is also going to be just as much pain, but it's going to be systematic, chosen pain,
right,
that's self-inflicted rather than what the market gives you.
Yeah.
What have you said? Like at the end of the day, you're either going to, you didn't say springboard, but as I was thinking, I was like, oh, this is the guy that springboards, he's healthy, launches into the next venture, and then this other dude like kind of skids to the end, like crumples on the ground, and that's the end of the road for him. Either way is going to be painful.
Either way. The only other thing I'd say is there's no doubt the top of the pyramid is where the most fun occurs. Like Valeri, outside of this product, that's where we are now. Like we're looking for ambitious owner operator, only because we only have so much capacity to serve so many business owners at one point, and so we're looking for those that are coming to us saying, not I want to escape some life I currently live. I want to finish building the thing that I set out to do. And we're like, only because like that's where the magic happens when you have a bunch of people that are that energized. What do they say? Success is like, it's like capability meets enthusiasm meets team orientation. If you have all three, like there's no way you'll fail. I would say we're going to have to figure out how to scale this. I think we have a moral responsibility to open this product up to all three ranks of that hierarchy because of what you just said. If you have 12 million boomer-owned businesses, or 50 and over, you increasingly do not have sons and daughters that want the business. And the businesses aren't currently being run in a way where they're valuable enough to transact without help.
It's like the $2 to $5 million business that's not going to set you up post-tax. Like, what am I going to do with that?
You're going to be so disheartened, and you will run it, begrudgingly so, right, into this halt, and there will be this kind of increased angst and kind of jaded feeling toward the world that your life's work was only worth X. And like, who feels that? Your team feels that. Your customers feel that, frankly. Like, that's a business that is slowly, little by little, kind of dying, even though it's still like everyone's working super hard. And but that outcome can be avoided if you just get ahead upstream and have that tough conversation. We're not saying all of a sudden that things will be easy. What we are saying, in 2 years from now, there could be a much different fate if you'll take that leap of faith and engage in this, let's prepare this vessel differently. There is a part of me, though we can't service everyone, who feels like that's a constituent base that deserves some attention, because there's not a lot of people that do that right now.
Sounds like one of the things you're going to offer up on a platter. I always think through business as you just need the right team, right strategy, and you need to execute. Like, at the end of the day, that is my, what'd you say, enthusiasm,
Team orientation,
and capability.
Yeah.
Those team execution and strategy is always what I come back to. But the precursor to that, to not having the right team, to not making strategic trade-offs, and to not executing, usually comes down to a lack of clarity of the founder or the resistance of making emotionally difficult decisions.
Mm-hmm.
And that's, I'm guessing, where the anger is coming from in these conversations. Like, it's emotionally painful.
Right.
And what you guys are delivering is, we're going to give you clarity on where these paths, you can skid to the end. It's all you. Or you can leapfrog into the next section. And depending on what you want, now you have enough information and operators behind that information to help you walk through making that emotionally difficult decision. Because at the end of the day, like, you have all the P&Ls, you have the balance sheets, but the emotions of the founder, oh my gosh, what a nuke to just drop at the end of a process. So, like, I'm sure you never experienced that on the dental side. Like, everything's dialed, everything was agreed to, but it comes. Have you ever been at the finish line and, like, hand over the pen and it's like, I don't know if I'm signing this deal?
Yeah, a couple times. And you can empathize. This is someone who's dedicated their life to this thing. Like, most of us, right, won't buy and sell or start and sell a business in our professional lifetime. The average person will work for somebody, and so it's like incredibly emotional. And you don't fault them. The problem with most sole proprietor owners, though, is like, who are you talking to? You can't really talk to your leadership team, maybe out of the reality that I'm about to get exposed, how lack of clarity there is. That doesn't feel good. I can't drag everything home to my spouse. That's not fair. So they bottle kind of the emotion and keep working insanely hard, right? The energy and the work ethic. And it's their life's work. They feel the weight, the responsibility, but it's totally emotional. Which, by the way, if you have nobody to talk to, and we've all been there, you don't always make sound business decisions.
I thought you were going to say you can call me up and give us your phone number.
No, like even I felt this way. I don't know if you probably have never, because you've got such a good head on your shoulders, but there are times you're so emotional that you're about to make an irresponsible decision that may have massive downstream effects or just little ones, but it is just emotional. So, like, on the dental side, when we are transacting with a founder and we're like, hey, what is it that you're looking for? It's the same kind of process. What is it you're looking for in a partner? What is it you're looking for in an outcome? and they will say all the things that they're looking for. Many times now, fast forward 2, 3, 5 years down the road, and those things that they said conceptually they wanted, and now rubber's meeting the road and we're executing those things, there's this huge panic. Even though academically it was exactly what they wanted and we worked them through that, but now the emotions and everything, it's not a trivial path.
Yeah, what's so funny about this conversation to me is I was thinking about it this morning. I don't know why I was thinking about this, but I went to this lady in Utah County to have like my VO2 test done, and body fat percentage and muscle mass, and genetically, like we took I think it was took spit and sent it into the lab and came back, and she's like, okay, here's what you should be eating, here's how you should be working out. Like, I'm good with this, but like I'm not going to change my diet. Like I want these outcomes, but I'm not changing this. And she kind of just looked at me and she's like, you would not believe how often people say that to me. And it's just like, it cracks me up that you can go through this entire process and give the clarity and say, you want this, here's going to be the cost on either side, whether you take the road or not, and people will still say no. Guys, is there anything else that you want to share before we wrap? We always have one question we ask at the end of these that we'll ask both of you. But anything that we didn't touch on that you wish we would have had, or any additional thoughts?
I'm appreciative of the time, both of you.
Yeah.
Thank you for having me today. Very, very appreciative. We're excited about being here in Utah as well. I've been telling people we were born in Idaho, but we're at home here in Utah. We have a website, utah.coopernorman.com, where people can learn more about what we're doing here. So I'd love it if people would visit that and get to know us a bit better.
We'll add that to the description of the video.
Rock on.
Thank you.
Thanks for having me back. So great to be here. The lineup of amazing keynotes you guys have. I just feel honored that you brought us back.
Thanks for joining, guys. Okay, last.
All ours.
Anything you want to add before the questions?
No.
Okay. It's the same question for both of you. We often ask, what advice did you give to your former self? But we since switched up the question. The best person to take advice from is yourself 3 years in the future. So take a second and channel. Did you say you just turned 40, Dan?
I'm turning 40 in about a week.
Okay. So channel about to turn 43-year-old Dan. And Cole, channel about to turn 29-year-old Cole. And Cole will never tell us his age. I have no idea how old Cole is. But from athleticism, he's got
me old compared to you.
From his athletics, he's got me by about 5 years. He's 5 years younger than me. Take a second and think, what advice would yourself 36 months from now have for you today?
You've been asked this question before, haven't you?
I know. You got to go first. I'm trying to think of how I answered last time.
Well, Cord, I guess what's on my mind, we talked a lot about, buy versus sell. We've talked about the direction that Cooper Norman is going. But if I'm being honest with myself, the reason why all of this is happening is, those private moments that I had with myself where I was addressing my own anxieties and fears and concerns that I have. I'm someone that is just tortured by my own insecurities and my own self-doubt. And I've always, 1,000 times I've wished that I could talk to my future self that would just tell me everything's okay, everything worked out, I hope to someday be the guy that doesn't have to ask my future self, hey, did everything sort out okay? Was that decision the right one to make? But I hope my 3-year guy tells me that everything worked out okay, and that I'm happier, that I found myself on solid ground. I know that's probably the most rote response I could have given you, but knowing myself, it would be a very brief conversation, and it would just be, is everything okay? So.
Thanks, Dan.
That's good. That's really good. I think I have a couple things. If it's 3 years from now, I am a bit of an achiever I'm the kind of person that wakes up feeling really energized about like what is possible to build today. I guess that probably lends itself to why we're doing what we're doing. And it's easy for me to want to sprint ahead and see these horizon points. But one of the things I've been thinking a lot about lately that I hope I remember in this journey is it's not really about that optimal outcome. And the best way to reduce your anxiety and uncertainty about the future is the behavior and activities and the intention of today. That if you're just showing up and producing good in the world, and you're a person of integrity and kindness, and you're bringing people along and allowing their space to like enlist, the rest truly, I think, takes care of itself. And it's the person who is constantly worried about revenue and watching that realizes that that's not going to get us there. It's the daily activities that we do that we know, we're so certain, right, will produce this thing. I'd like to more become someone who is very acutely aware of that, and that alleviated a lot of this anticipation or anxiety about what happens in the future. And honestly would like with this product to advise and coach in a way where that anxious business owner isn't so hung up on the future either. It's like, hey, what we're going to help you do is just put one foot in front of the other and just trust that like that's out there and it's going to happen. Your people are going to be well taken care of. You know, your business is going to be valuable. So that was one. The other is I hope in 3 years that I did a good job of bringing my spouse and my family and my inner circle with me, that all of the wonderful things that we may achieve are not really satisfying if you weren't taking care of what was right in front of you along the way. I think I could be the kind of person that is so excited about racing forward that I'd miss some of the goodness that's right in front of me.
Any last words, Claudio?
What a treat, guys, this has been. Thank you.
What a treat
I
indeed.
have some mental notes here that I'm taking back, but I appreciate you both, and I've learned a lot. Thank you.
So blessed to have you guys on. Such a treat for us. Thanks for taking the afternoon.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
It's a wrap.
Thank you,
It's a
guys.
wrap.